do a lot of jobs if given the opportunity.
Good response.
Skip, I think anytime it's the first is always important. The first time someone ran a sub 4-minute mile, the first time someone scaled Mount Everest, the first time we put man on the moon. Anytime the first is very important.
Yep.
Hopefully it's not the last. We've had a lot of not a lot, we've had a few black quarterbacks start and win the Super Bowl, but never at the same time have we had two black quarterbacks face off against each other. So I think
you've had 3 win the Super Bowl.
Okay. Doug Williams did it first, I think in '87. And then Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson won it, and then Patrick Mahomes. So we're about to get the 4th. We just don't know who that 4th one is. And so, Skip, I think it's common now. The NFL had a record 11 black quarterbacks start a game this season. Obviously, the Broncos and the Ravens, they have black quarterbacks, that start every single game. Justin Fields, you had Kyler Murray start, and so forth and so on, Skip. So I just think it's a testament. I don't think we're surprised that Patrick Mahomes got back. But to see where Jalen Hurts came from, lost his job at Alabama, he couldn't throw the football consistently, accurately enough, ended up transferring, got better at throwing the football, but he didn't get to the point where he felt that he could be be in this position. So he goes out, seeks help, gets help, works on his fundamental, works on his footwork, and now you see where he is. And you see the maturation process from where he was when he started at Alabama to where he left Alabama, goes to Oklahoma, to see where he is as a starter now in the NFL, Skip. He's a top 10 quarterback in my estimation. And just because you don't throw for 5,000 yards and you're not the prototypical drop back Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, that doesn't mean that you're not a top quarterback. He just does it in a different way. He's not a guy that's probably going to throw for 5,000 yards. But he'll probably throw for 4,000, have you 10 rushing touchdowns with another 500 to 600 yards rushing. So for me, Skip, I'm proud of the accomplishment. It was something that I really like, damn. When it all came together, when Mahomes finally won, I was like, damn, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. But I was like, okay, damn. People not making a whole lot of fuss about it because I think we see it more often than what we used to,
We
Skip.
do.
I remember when Doug, and it was a big deal, and they asked Doug. Doug says, hell, I always been black. It just happened to be I'm in the Super Bowl. I just didn't become black because I got to the Super Bowl. I've been a black quarterback. Skip, I'm just old enough to remember, and hopefully these guys, as they sit back and reflect on where they are, think about all the black quarterbacks that didn't get the opportunity that they got.
Good point.
I think that's what's important. These guys get an opportunity that a lot of guys didn't get that opportunity. They had to either switch positions. Warren Moon ended up having to go to Canada for 5 years, win 5 Grey Cups before he came back and got the opportunity to play in the league. So it just, Skip, I'm proud. I'm proud for my community. Both of these guys come from the black community. I'm proud for the National Football League that they finally wised up and realized that these men can do the job. They just needed to be given the opportunity. And I think, look, from Shaq Harrison, Shaq, James Harris, Shaq. I know Shaq very, very well. But just to have this, Doug, what Doug was able to do, Skip, Doug really, look, he wasn't the first. But you got to do something significant. Him winning the Super Bowl, which is the ultimate prize, showed that a black man had the capabilities, not only physically, but mentally, to withstand the rigors of that position, stand tall when it's all said and done. And so it was Doug that should be given the credit because he was the first, not the first black quarterback, but he was the first to win the Super Bowl. Because once he did that, they were like, well, hold on, wait a minute. They weren't supposed to be able to process information fast enough. They weren't supposed to be able to be mentally strong enough to withstand it. We know physically they can, but what about mentally? Because that is the ultimate mental position. Congratulations to Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. I'm proud. I can assure you the community is very, very proud.
Well said. Now, let me frame my perspective with my history, because I feel like I was blessed to be, or privileged to be, or just lucky enough to be on the cusp of this, because I was working out here for the LA Times 1977, and I saw this coming, or so I thought. It looked like Doug Williams at Grambling State University was going to be the first overall pick in the draft because he looked like he was the best quarterback in college football.
Were you already out here when Shaq was starting for the Rams?
I was, and I got to know him well, so I got both worlds.
Okay.
But I convinced the LA Times to send me to Grambling for an entire week leading up to their game at Prairie View.
Okay.
with Coach Rob, the great Eddie Robinson. And I spent much of the week around Doug Williams in his dorm room, just hanging out with him. And I was taken by his presence and his stature. What do we give Doug? 6'4", maybe? 6'4"-ish. But he was prototypical pocket thrower.
Straight drop back.
And straight drop back. And we're not talking about the classic running black quarterback.
No.
We're talking about he can do what all the white quarterback, the great ones, have always done. He can drop back and he can rocket arm it.
Yes.
And I'm saying, well, this is it.
Right.
Here it is. So I did a big blowout piece. They stripped it across the top of the sports section, both on him and then Coach Robinson. And I waited, and he fell, and he fell, and he fell in that next draft all the way down to 17th. He did go in the first round, but he did not go 1 or 2. He went all the way down to Tampa Bay at 17. And you know the rest of the story. It took a while, and he had to change teams to Washington, but 1988, so it was 11 years later, he broke through and won the first ever Super Bowl won by a black quarterback. And Doug was built to last, where he had a certain, you got to have some mental toughness to do this. I'm not saying it was Jackie Robinson, but it was in the ballpark, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm going through it with Shaq Harris, the great James Harris in L.A. And this was, in some ways, even tougher because he was breaking through as a starting black quarterback, and he was under fire because you make one slight mistake, and it's like,
they boo in and they want the backup to come in.
All right, so I'm going to frame all this with the fact that as I was writing my Doug Williams piece, I called several GMs just to get the take on where's he going to go in the draft. A very prominent GM, whom I will not name, told me, to your point that you just made, that he did not think Doug Williams would be the first overall pick or even a first-round pick because the black quarterbacks, and I'm going to quote him, as he said, do not have the mental capabilities to succeed at our level, Well, I was like, really? I just spent a week around him, and I thought, I
didn't get that.
I think he's going to be just fine.
Right.
Trust me on this, he's going to be just fine. James Harris was a quiet man, and he had a hard time dealing with the media because it was just a barrage of L.A. media around the Rams. They were more of a running team than a throwing team.
And he was a drop back passer.
He was straight drop back in the same idea, but with a cannon of an arm.
Because he came from Grambling also.
He did. He came from Grambling also. But they're trying to shatter the, they're trying to break through and do what all the white quarterbacks had always done. We're doing it at least as well as you, if not a little better than you. No, we're not ready. And there was Marlon Briscoe.
He was the first full-time starter, but he was more athletic. He was more of a mobile quarterback that moved it around. And then you had Joe Gilliam up in Pittsburgh.
Yes, he was. And
Broadway Joe.
He was at Tennessee State when I was at Vanderbilt.
Yes.
And he was going back and forth with Terry Bradshaw and starting for the Steelers in Terry's early years. Okay. So it took a while. But once the floodgates opened on the black quarterback, I feel like they opened pretty heavily here because all of a sudden I look down at the list of black quarterbacks now taken over in the first round. Or let's just do we can do both. We can do the first overalls and the first round. There are 29 total that have gone. I'm sorry, 25 total have gone in the first round.
Okay.
It's pretty good, and every year it gets a little more and a little more and a little more. And the first overalls, just to remind everybody, we got our man Michael Vick.
He was the first, if I'm not mistaken, black quarterback selected #1 overall.
Okay, Jamarcus Russell didn't work out, but he went #1 overall. Cam Newton did work out. He went first in 2011. Jameis has been a little hit and miss, but he went first overall in 15. And then Kyler, we don't know the outcome of Kyler.
But he did win Offensive Rookie of the Year, same as Jameis.
He did, and he's made 2 Pro Bowls. So I would call Kyler a success.
Okay.
I know he's had his issues in Arizona, but he is a success story so far, and he obviously went #1 overall. And then we go back to some of the early first-round picks. You competed against Steve McNair.
I did. I think he went 3rd overall.
He did go 3rd overall. And Achilles Smith, Steve McNair was 95, 99. Achilles Smith went 3rd overall and it didn't work out. I missed Andre Ware was the Heisman winner.
He came out my year in 90. I think he went 7th to Detroit.
He did. You got it. Good memory. Very good memory. And was okay, but not great. But still, you can see it coming. Then Don McNabb, obviously, was #2 in 99. And then really, here it went. And Just this past year, just for the record, I counted up 19 black quarterbacks who started games in the National Football League. 19 different black quarterbacks started games.
Right.
I would say that's progress. I would say that's a good number. And as we project forward, this coming draft, it's going to be C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young 1-2 or 2-1.
Right.
Now it's starting to lean towards C.J. off the game that he played, obviously, in the national semifinal.
I guess they missed that game that Bryce Young played in the SEC championship against Georgia. Ooh. I guess they missed that when he threw for 400 plus, but okay.
They're both really good,
They are.
and I would be very happy to have either one as my going forward face of the franchise starting quarterback. Okay, so they're going to be the first two overall selections. So my point is, we have come a long way.
We have.
But if we frame it against what's happened to black head coaches as we speak, even though we think D'Amico Ryans is going to get a job, you're pretty sure, right?
Yes.
Are we very sure?
Very sure. Okay. Very sure.
Okay, we should be very sure.
I won't say 100%, but I will say 99.9%.
Well, every time we talk about black head coaches, I'm afraid to go to 100% because I never know, because I thought Steve Wilkes was like 99%, and that was not true.
Right.
Mike Tomlin, Todd Bowles, Mike McDaniel.
Yep.
3.
Yes.
Okay. And yet 19 black quarterbacks started games last year, but we still have only 3 head coaches.
Right.
It's just hard to reconcile those two numbers to me because we're doing pretty well over here.
Right.
Not great, but pretty well with the black quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We are going backward with the black head coaches.
Yes.
Help me out.
Yes.
What is happening?
Well, I thought, Skip, once Tony Dungy broke through and won the Super Bowl, and he was the first, he went against his good friend Lovie Smith, who was on his staff. I was like, okay, this is going to be more opportunities. And then a few years later, Mike Tomlin breaks through and he wins it. You thought the floodgates were open, but it hadn't happened. It's kind of like what we thought with Tiger Woods playing golf. We thought we were going to see a whole lot of blacks on the circuit.
Boy, I did.
On the tour.
After 99?
I mean,
97.
97. And the only one I can really think of is Howard Varner.
Yeah. Well, that's about it.
That's it.
No.
So, Skip, look, I just, like you said, there's going to be 2 more coming to the, I'm sure there's some more black quarterbacks, but we think that C.J. and Bryce Young will be selected in the top 5 picks.
Yep.
And so we've come a long way. Is there more work to be done? Sure. I think the guys have shown, I think, from Patrick Mahomes to Dak and to Russell Wilson, not so much last year, but in the past, that when given the opportunity, they can do the job. And they can do the job at a very, very high level. And that's what sometimes, Skip, it just takes an opportunity. It's like you giving me an opportunity. I was the first athlete to sit across from a full-time journalist or an ex-full-time journalist and debate topics. You guys covered all these sports. You went to Lake Placid and covered the Winter Olympics. Or you went overseas.
It's funny you picked out Lake Placid. It's like my least favorite place I ever went in my life, but I was there.
You was there. Yeah. And so you probably saw Eric Heiden, and you saw the gold medal of the Olympic team win the gold medal. You probably so you covered all of these events. But you gave an athlete an opportunity to talk about something other than the sport he played.
That is
true. So it was up to me to show that, okay, I got to hold in, because if I don't do it, and everybody really knows me, knows that I have a vast knowledge about a lot of different things.
You do.
If I can't do it, well, who in the hell can?
That is true.
And so sometimes someone has to give you an opportunity, and then said person that received opportunity has to take full advantage of it. And what we've seen from the black quarterback, when given the opportunity, or the black coaches for it, and we'll talk about, I'm sure we'll get to, as the hiring cycle picks up, we'll talk about the black coaches. But what we've seen from the black quarterback, when given the opportunity, everything's around them, and they give them like what you see what they do. They go out and they get Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Higgins was already there, so he can succeed.
Yep.
A lot of times he will succeed just as their white counterpart has.
That is correct. So, to me, what we see happening here is that, let's take it all the way to the top, white ownership, and many times white general managers. They are seeing that black quarterbacks can win them a lot of football games.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're saying, he's doing it over there and they're doing it over there. Maybe I should get me a black quarterback.
Exactly.
And that's why we have this breakthrough, because they are succeeding at the highest levels.
Yes.
And this is nothing but great, because this will continue to open minds to, well, maybe I should. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And we got Rand Carthon, who's now the general manager in Tennessee.
Good one.
And arguably one of the greatest general managers ever, Ozzie Newsome.
I think he just might be the greatest.
Skip, remember what Bill Nunn did in the Steelers in the early 70s?
He did. He revolutionized. But he went to the HBCUs.
Yes.
Yeah, and he knew where everything was that was off the beaten track for the NFL.
A lot of the 70s, a lot of those teams, your Cowboys lived, Tex Stram lived at black colleges.
Well, Gil Brandt.
Gil Brandt
did, yes. On the other front, on the black head coaches, we see again and again and again that the white owners are not that comfortable because they want to have a very close working relationship. Right. And it's not, I'm not saying they're racist. I'm just saying they're culturally not inclined to want to associate at great length with an African-American head coach because it's just not it's not how they're built. Right. You know, I don't want to socialize with this guy. Again, it's not going over the line of racism. Right. It's just how they were raised, how they were built. So we're down to 3 and we hope we're going to have 4, but it's looking pretty dim on that front right now because it comes down to it's not so much about winning, it's about associating, right, in the end. And that's been the roadblock for a lot of black coaches to get head coaching jobs. Right. Mm-hmm. The assistants are fine. We're fairly well stocked with the assistants, but not with the.
Well, and what they'll do, Skip, is that they're black. This is what will make you assistant head coach. Yeah, we'll give you a fancy title. Yeah, give you a little bit more money, but it's not the title.
Yeah, I got it. Which brings me back to a young man that you mentioned, Jalen Hurts, who is dear to my heart. I've been a big fan for a long time. I'm an even bigger fan of what he just overcame and achieved, to your point, because he is also shattering this mold of, oh, you're just a running quarterback. A lot of people wrote him off in his first year. Okay, so you can run some. And he's not a flashy runner like Lamar is. No. But he is an effective runner. Correct. Because he's a smart runner and he's a strong runner. But this past offseason, you know and I know, he just said, okay,
he got in the lab.
Watch this. Mm-hmm. And boy, he went to work. He came out here with my friend Tom House at USC. How do I do this? Rebuild me. Restructure my mechanics. Right. Show me the right way to do this. You taught Brady, you taught Breeze, you taught him just about all of them. Yes. Show me. And he worked. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of extreme dedication that a lot of young players just don't have in their hearts. I'm talking about white, black, whatever color they are. They just don't have it. They have better things to do at that age than that.
Especially as you get older, it gets harder for us to learn new things. I think the thing that I love most about Jalen, Skip, because this is what will happen. You can learn something new, but when you get in a stressful situation, you'll revert back to what you
That's a great point. I agree.
Feel comfortable with. For whatever reason, even when in the most stressful situations, he has not reverted back to his
By the way, quick point on that. My friend Tom House always talks, or used to talk about Tim Tebow that way because he taught Tebow in the offseason. He said, I promise you, I could have lined up Tim Tebow with Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Carson Palmer and you name them down the line, and they could all throw at the same time, and you wouldn't be able to pick him out of the lineup because his delivery looked pure to me when he's out here at USC throwing against air, right? Get him under duress, and what starts happening?
He'll revert back to what he feels comfortable with.
Okay, I got it. Go ahead.
No, and so Jalen went to the lab, Skip. He worked on it in stressful situations. The motion hadn't changed.
It hasn't changed. He achieved at the highest level. It's why I fought for him to be the MVP. I can't do his numbers versus the Star Wars numbers that Patrick put up, and so he's going to be the runaway winner, especially because Jalen finally got hurt at Chicago. But what he achieved intangibly, impact on that franchise, I think he changed their culture, and I think he, just on his leadership and pure will, I think he helped lift. It's obviously a talented football team, but he helped lift them into the spot that they're in right now as the Super Bowl slight favorite.
And he in line to get a big old payday.
I'd say. And
he might get $200 million for the guaranteed.
Yeah, and his left tackle is now campaigning all over Twitter. Pay the man. Well, I think that's pretty obvious. I think he has earned.
Oh, he about to get paid. He about to get paid.
Okay, here we go. Way to go.
Speaking of getting paid, NFL released salary cap numbers for next season, and There's some room for some folks to get paid, that's for sure. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Subscribe here to get the very latest from Skip and Shannon. Plus, go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.